As you settle into your bed tonight, feeling the familiar comfort of your modern world around you, imagine for a moment that you could travel not through space, but through time. The sheets that cradle you, the pillow that supports your head, the very room that shelters you. All of this exists in just the thinnest slice of Earth's magnificent story. Beneath your feet, buried in layers of rock that tell our planet's ancient tale, lie the remains of creatures so strange and wonderful that they challenge our very imagination. Tonight, we're going to take a gentle journey backward through deep time, to an era when our planet was home to the most magnificent and peculiar animals that ever lived. The dinosaurs. But not the dinosaurs you might expect. We're going to meet the strangest of the strange, the most bizarre and beautiful creatures that evolution ever crafted, in a world so different from ours that it might as well have been another planet entirely. Close your eyes and let yourself sink deeper into your comfortable bed. Feel the weight of your body supported by the mattress, the gentle rhythm of your breathing, the peaceful quiet of your nighttime sanctuary. Now, in your mind's eye, begin to imagine that this moment, this single heartbeat of the present, is like the surface of a vast, still lake. And like a stone dropped into water, we're going to let our consciousness sink slowly through the layers of time, deeper and deeper, past the ripples of human history, past the formation of mountains and the shifting of continents, until we reach a world that existed when life was writing its most creative chapters. The journey through deep time requires a different kind of imagination than we use for everyday distances. When we think of traveling to another city, we can picture the highway stretching ahead, the landmarks will pass. But traveling through geological time is like trying to comprehend the number of stars in the galaxy. Our minds need gentle metaphors to make sense of such vastness. Imagine that each year of your life was represented by a single page in a book. A long human lifetime might fill a book of 80 or 90 pages, substantial but manageable to hold in your hands. Now picture that your life book is placed atop a stack of similar books, each representing another human lifetime, stretching back through all of recorded history. The stack would reach perhaps as high as your bedroom ceiling, impressive but still within the bounds of human experience. But the age of dinosaurs began not ceiling high above us in this metaphor, but miles above, in a tower of books that would pierce the clouds and reach toward the edge of space itself. 230 million years ago, when the first dinosaurs appeared, is almost incomprehensibly ancient. Yet this is where our journey takes us tonight. Not through the anxiety of such vastness, but into the wonder of it. As we drift backward through this ocean of time, the familiar world around your bed begins to change in the most gradual, peaceful way. The walls of your room fade like morning mist, and the land beneath transforms through countless seasons of rain and sunshine, growth and renewal. The very rocks that form the foundation of your home have stories to tell. Stories of ancient seas that once covered continents, of vast forests that became coal seams, of mountains that rose and wore away like waves upon a shore. This process of geological change isn't violent or frightening. It's as gentle as the turning of seasons, stretched across timescales that make our human urgency seem beautifully insignificant. Rock layers form like pages in Earth's diary, each one capturing a moment in the planet's long meditation on life and change. And preserved within these stone pages, like flowers pressed between the leaves of a beloved book, are the fossils, the remains of creatures that once walked, swam, and soared through ancient worlds. The process of fossilization itself is one of nature's most tender acts of preservation. When a dinosaur died beside an ancient river, its body wasn't lost to time, but cradled by sediments that settled around it like a soft blanket. Over millions of years, minerals slowly replaced the original bone, creating a perfect stone replica, a love letter from deep time, written in crystal and preserved in rock, waiting patiently for human hands to discover it and human minds to wonder at it. As we continue our backward journey through the layers of time, we begin to see the shadows of familiar friends, the dinosaurs that have captured human imagination for generations. Here, in the chalk cliffs and badlands of the late Cretaceous period, 66 million years ago, we encounter the mighty Tyrannosaurus rex. But even this king of predators, which seemed so fearsome in movies and museums, appears different when we meet it in the context of deep time's gentle flow. Picture T-Rex not as a monster, but as a masterpiece of evolutionary engineering. Standing as tall as a giraffe, with teeth like railroad spikes, it moved through its ancient world with the same purposeful grace that any successful predator possesses. Its tiny arms, so often mocked, were actually powerful tools, each capable of lifting hundreds of pounds. And recent discoveries suggest that young T-Rex may have been covered in downy feathers, like enormous, deadly chicks, a reminder that the line between birds and dinosaurs is not a boundary, but a bridge. The world that T-Rex inhabited was warm and humid, without polar ice caps. Sea levels were much higher than today, creating shallow inland seas that stretched across what is now the American Midwest. Palm trees grew in Alaska, and the air was thick with moisture and the songs of early birds. It was a greenhouse Earth, lush and verdant, where flowering plants were just beginning their spectacular diversification, painting ancient landscapes with the first true flowers. Moving slightly forward in our journey, we encounter Triceratops, that beloved three-horned herbivore whose frilled skull has made it an icon of the dinosaur world. These gentle giants traveled in herds across the flowering meadows of the late Cretaceous, their massive heads crowned with horns that could grow longer than baseball bats. But those impressive horns weren't primarily weapons. They were likely displays of health and status, like the antlers of modern deer, used to attract mates and establish social hierarchies within the herd. The frill behind Triceratops's head wasn't just for show either. It was a complex structure that served as anchor points for massive jaw muscles, allowing these dinosaurs to process the tough, fibrous plants of their era. They were living lawnmowers, equipped with scissor-like beaks in front and batteries of grinding teeth in back, perfectly designed to crop and process vegetation. When they moved in herds across the prehistoric plains, the ground would have trembled gently under their weight, and the air would have filled with the sounds of their contentment. Low rumbles and soft vocalizations, like the satisfied lowing of cattle on a peaceful summer evening. Traveling further back, we reach the Middle Jurassic period, about 160 million years ago, where we find Stegosaurus browsing in the fern prairies of ancient Colorado. This armored herbivore, with its distinctive double row of triangular plates running down its spine, represents one of evolution's most iconic experiments in defense and display. Those plates, once thought to be armor, likely served a more subtle purpose. They were probably used for temperature regulation and social signaling, catching the morning sun to warm the animal's blood or flushing with color during mating displays. The 4 long spikes at the end of Stegosaurus's tail, informally known as the thagomizer, were genuine weapons capable of delivering devastating blows to any predator foolish enough to approach from behind. But even these formidable defenses were part of nature's careful balance. Stegosaurus lived its life peacefully, wandering through forests of conifers and ferns, reaching up with its long hind legs to browse on vegetation that smaller animals couldn't access. Its brain was famously small, about the size of a walnut in a body that weighed as much as an elephant. But this wasn't a failure of design. It was a creature so perfectly adapted to its environment that complex cognition was simply unnecessary. These familiar dinosaurs, T-Rex, Triceratops, Stegosaurus, are like comfortable landmarks in our journey through deep time. They ground us in recognizable forms, giving our imagination a place to rest before we venture into stranger territories. They represent the classic image of dinosaurs that most of us carry, large, impressive reptiles that dominated ancient landscapes through size and strength. But even these well-known giants were far more sophisticated than early paleontologists imagined. Modern research reveals that dinosaurs were likely warm-blooded social creatures with complex behaviors and rich sensory lives. Many species probably cared for their young with the same devotion we see in modern birds. Some may have used tools, communicated with elaborate visual displays, and lived in societies as complex as those of modern mammals. The world these dinosaurs inhabited wasn't a harsh alien landscape, but a thriving biosphere of remarkable beauty and diversity. Ancient forests were different from modern ones, dominated by conifers, ferns, and cycads rather than flowering plants, but they were no less magnificent. Picture vast groves of towering araucarias, their umbrella-shaped crowns creating cathedral-like spaces below. Imagine meadows carpeted with ferns that unfurled like nature's own abstract sculptures, and streams that meandered through landscapes painted in every shade of green. The air itself would have felt different, richer in oxygen during some periods, creating an atmosphere that could support the largest land animals that ever lived. The very quality of light filtering through those ancient forests would have been subtly different, as flowering plants had not yet evolved to their modern diversity, and the co-evolution between insects and flowers was still in its early chapters. As we rest here in the familiar territory of these well-known dinosaurs, preparing for the stranger discoveries that await us, take a moment to appreciate the profound shift in perspective that our journey through deep time provides. The bed where you lie, the room that surrounds you, the concerns and schedules of your daily life. All of these are part of a story that stretches back through unimaginable ages. You are connected through an unbroken chain of descent to every creature that has ever lived on Earth. The calcium in your bones was forged in ancient stars, and may once have been part of a triceratops frill. The iron in your blood carries the same chemistry that once powered the muscles of Stegosaurus. The very DNA in your cells shares fundamental sequences with creatures that lived 100 million years ago. You are not separate from this ancient world. You are its descendant and heir, carrying within your very atoms the story of life's long journey through time. Tonight, as you rest safely in the modern world, surrounded by the technologies and comforts that make your life secure and peaceful, you can afford to let your mind wander into these ancient realms without fear. The dinosaurs we're about to meet, creatures far stranger than T-Rex or Triceratops, lived their lives with the same fundamental drives that motivate all living things: the search for food, shelter, mates, and safety for their offspring. Their strangeness is not alienating, but illuminating, revealing the endless creativity of evolution and the infinite variety of solutions that life has discovered for the basic challenge of existence. As we prepare to venture deeper into the Mesozoic era to meet dinosaurs that challenge our very conception of what these ancient animals could be, remember that each strange adaptation we encounter is a testament to life's ingenuity and persistence. In the gentle darkness of your bedroom, surrounded by the quiet of the modern night, you are perfectly positioned to appreciate the wonder of these ancient innovations, without the anxiety that might accompany such revelations in the bright urgency of daytime. The journey ahead will take us from the familiar shores of conventional dinosaur imagery into the deep waters of evolutionary experimentation. We'll meet dinosaurs no larger than ravens and others that dwarfed the largest elephants. We'll discover creatures that lived in trees, others that swam like crocodiles, and some that achieved powered flight millions of years before any mammal left the ground. Each of these strange and wonderful animals represents a unique solution to the challenges of survival, a creative response to environmental pressures, a successful experiment in the vast laboratory of natural selection. They are not failures or curiosities, but masterpieces of adaptation, each perfectly suited to their particular slice of ancient time and space. As you feel yourself settling more deeply into sleep's gentle approach, carry with you the comforting knowledge that the story we're beginning to tell is ultimately a story about home. Earth has always been a planet where life finds ways to flourish, where evolution discovers solutions to every challenge, where the impossible regularly becomes not only possible, but beautifully, wonderfully ordinary. Tomorrow, in your waking life, you might look at the birds outside your window with new eyes, recognizing them as living dinosaurs, direct descendants of the creatures we're about to meet. You might feel a deeper connection to the natural world, understanding that the same creative forces that crafted the strangest dinosaurs are still at work today, still writing new chapters in life's endless story of adaptation and survival. For now, though, let yourself rest at this peaceful way station in our journey through time. The familiar forms of T-Rex, Triceratops, and Stegosaurus stand like gentle guardians at the threshold between the known and unknown, between the comfortable and the wonderfully strange. They remind us that even the most exotic creatures we're about to encounter shared the same earth, breathed the same air, and participated in the same grand adventure of life that continues around us today. In a few moments, when you're ready, we'll continue our journey deeper into the Mesozoic, where the truly peculiar dinosaurs await our discovery. But for now, rest easy in the knowledge that you are part of this magnificent story, a conscious moment in evolution's long dream, perfectly positioned to appreciate the beauty and strangeness of life in all its myriad forms. The tiny and peculiar. As you continue to rest comfortably in your bed, feeling the gentle pull of sleep's approach, let us venture deeper into the fossil record, where the first truly surprising dinosaurs await our discovery. We're leaving behind the familiar giants and stepping into a world where evolution began its most creative experiments, crafting creatures that seem to blur the very boundaries of what we thought possible. Our first encounter in this realm of the peculiar takes us to the forests of early Cretaceous China, about 125 million years ago. Here, in what was once a landscape of lakes and woodlands, lived one of the most extraordinary dinosaurs ever discovered, Microraptor, the four-winged dragon of the ancient world. Picture, if you will, a creature about the size of a crow, but unlike any bird you've ever seen. Microraptor possessed not just the usual pair of wings on its arms, but a second pair on its legs, creating a four-winged configuration that seems almost mythological in its strangeness. Its entire body was covered in a coat of iridescent black feathers, gleaming with the same rainbow sheen you might see on a raven's wing in morning sunlight. This wasn't just functional plumage, it was nature's own haute couture, a living jewel moving through ancient forests. But Microraptor couldn't truly fly in the way modern birds do. Instead, it was a glider, launching itself from the high branches of conifers and soaring through the forest canopy with outstretched wings and legs. Imagine the sight, a creature that looked like a small feathered dragon, spreading all four wings to catch the air currents filtering through the ancient woods. It would glide from tree to tree with the grace of a flying squirrel, but with the dinosaurian heritage written in every bone of its elegant skeleton. The discovery of Microraptor revolutionized our understanding of the relationship between dinosaurs and birds. Here was proof that the boundary between these two groups wasn't a sharp line, but a gradual transition, with creatures like Microraptor serving as bridges between the terrestrial world of dinosaurs and the aerial realm of birds. Its four-winged design might seem inefficient by modern standards, but it was a perfectly functional solution for a small predator, navigating the three-dimensional maze of an ancient forest canopy. As we watch Microraptor in our mind's eye, gliding through the dappled sunlight of its Cretaceous forest, we can appreciate how evolution often finds solutions that seem impossible until they're discovered in the fossil record. This tiny dinosaur lived successfully for millions of years, using its unique four-winged design, proving that nature's creativity far exceeds our human imagination. From the treetops of ancient China, our journey through time carries us to the plains of late Cretaceous Argentina, where we encounter our next peculiar friend, Carnotaurus, whose name means meat-eating bull. But don't let the fearsome name disturb your peaceful rest. Carnotaurus, despite being a predator, represents one of evolution's most fascinating experiments in speed and specialization. Picture a theropod dinosaur, a meat-eater walking on two legs, but one that evolution has streamlined for pure velocity. Carnotaurus stood about 10 feet tall and measured nearly 30 feet from nose to tail, but it was built like a biological race car. Its skull was narrow and lightweight, adorned with two small horns above the eyes that gave it its distinctive bull appearance. These weren't weapons so much as display features, perhaps used to identify members of its own species or to establish dominance through ritualized headbutting competitions. But the most remarkable feature of Carnotaurus wasn't its horned head. It was its arms, or rather, the almost complete absence of them. While Tyrannosaurus rex is famous for its relatively small arms, Carnotaurus took arm reduction to an almost comical extreme. Its forelimbs were mere vestiges, tiny appendages that couldn't even bend at the elbow. They were so reduced that they resembled little more than bony bumps protruding from its shoulders, covered in skin and serving no apparent function. This extreme arm reduction was the price Carnotaurus paid for its incredible specialization as a pursuit predator. Every aspect of its anatomy was devoted to speed. Its leg bones were long and slender, built like those of a racing horse. Its backbone was reinforced to handle the stresses of high-speed running, and its tail was remarkably rigid, serving as a counterbalance as it sprinted across the ancient landscape. Scientists estimate that Carnotaurus could reach speeds of up to 35 miles per hour, faster than any human sprinter, and rivaling the velocity of modern race horses. Imagine this strange, horned predator racing across the floodplains of Cretaceous Argentina, its tiny arms pinned to its sides, its powerful legs eating up the distance as it pursued its prey through landscapes dotted with early flowering plants and towering Araucaria trees. The world Carnotaurus inhabited was one of transition and change. The supercontinent of Gondwana was breaking apart, creating new ocean basins and isolated landmasses where evolution could experiment with different solutions to survival. South America was becoming an island continent, and its dinosaur fauna was developing unique characteristics found nowhere else on Earth. Carnotaurus was part of a family of South American predators called abelisaurids, all characterized by their stocky builds, ornamented skulls, and reduced arms. From the racing plains of ancient Argentina, let us shift our perspective dramatically as we encounter our next strange friend. The Resinosaurus, a dinosaur so bizarre that its discoverers initially couldn't figure out what kind of creature they had found. The first fossils discovered were simply enormous claws, each one measuring over 3 feet in length and curved like massive scythes. These claws were so large and fearsome looking that scientists initially thought they belonged to a giant turtle, or perhaps some unknown type of massive crocodile. But Therizinosaurus was neither turtle nor crocodile. It was a theropod dinosaur, a member of the same group that included Tyrannosaurus and Carnotaurus. Yet evolution had taken this lineage in a completely unexpected direction. Instead of becoming a predator, Therizinosaurus had become a gentle giant, a plant-eating colossus that used its enormous claws not for ripping flesh, but for pulling down high branches and stripping leaves from trees. Picture a dinosaur that stood 16 feet tall and measured up to 40 feet in length, with a long neck like a sauropod, a massive pot belly for processing plant matter, and arms ending in claws that looked like they belonged on a dragon from mythology. Yet this fearsome-looking giant was as harmless as a giraffe, spending its days peacefully browsing in the forests of late Cretaceous Mongolia and China. The body plan of Therizinosaurus seems almost contradictory. A predator's skeleton adapted for herbivory, a theropod that had abandoned meat-eating in favor of vegetation. Its skull was relatively small for its body size, equipped with a beak for cropping plants and simple teeth for basic processing. Its neck was long and flexible, allowing it to reach high into trees like a giant feathered giraffe. And covering this bizarre body was likely a coat of primitive feathers, giving it the appearance of an enormous, prehistoric big bird. Those massive claws that first mystified paleontologists served as specialized tools for accessing food sources that other herbivores couldn't reach. Therizinosaurus could rear up on its hind legs, using its claws to pull down branches from trees 60 feet tall, then strip away the nutritious leaves with its beak. It was a living ladder, a biological crane designed to harvest the forest canopy. The existence of Therizinosaurus reminds us that evolution doesn't follow our human expectations about how predators and prey should look and behave. Here was a dinosaur that inherited the basic body plan of a meat-eater, but found success by abandoning that lifestyle entirely, becoming instead a specialist in harvesting the abundant plant life of its era. It's a testament to the flexibility of evolution and the way natural selection can repurpose existing structures for entirely new functions. Our final peculiar friend in this section takes us to the Badlands of South Dakota, where we meet Draco Rex, a dinosaur whose scientific name literally means Dragon King of Hogwarts. This playful naming reflects not only the creature's dragon-like appearance, but also the sense of wonder and imagination that paleontology can inspire in both scientists and the public. Draco Rex was a pachycephalosaur, a member of the bone-headed dinosaur family, but unlike its famous relative Pachycephalosaurus with its smooth, domed skull, Draco Rex possessed a head that looked like it belonged in a fantasy novel. Its skull was flat and wide, but decorated with an elaborate array of spikes and horns that projected backward and sideways, creating a crown of bone that gave the animal a truly draconic appearance. The skull of Draco Rex was relatively thin compared to other pachycephalosaurs, suggesting that it didn't use headbutting as a primary behavior like some of its dome-headed relatives. Instead, those impressive spikes and horns likely served as display features, perhaps used in courtship rituals or to establish social hierarchies within the herd. Picture these dinosaurs in groups, their spiked heads bobbing and weaving in elaborate dances, using their dramatic cranial ornamentation to communicate with one another across the ancient landscape. What makes Draco Rex particularly fascinating is that it might not actually be a distinct species at all, but rather a juvenile form of the more famous Pachycephalosaurus. Some scientists theorize that as these dinosaurs aged, their skulls would remodel dramatically, the spikes would be reabsorbed, and the skull would thicken and dome, transforming the dragon-like juvenile into the bowling ball-headed adult we know as Pachycephalosaurus. If this theory is correct, it would mean that these dinosaurs went through one of the most dramatic transformations known in the animal kingdom, essentially changing from one seemingly different species into another as they matured. It would be like watching a spiky lizard gradually transform into a completely different-looking creature over the course of its lifetime. A metamorphosis as remarkable as that of a caterpillar becoming a butterfly, but played out over years instead of weeks. The world these peculiar dinosaurs inhabited was one of incredible diversity and experimentation. The Cretaceous period, particularly its later stages, saw an explosion of evolutionary creativity that produced some of the strangest and most specialized creatures in Earth's history. climate change, continental drift, and the rise of flowering plants created new ecological niches and opportunities that evolution seized upon with remarkable inventiveness. These four dinosaurs, Microraptor, the four-winged glider, Carnotaurus, the speed demon with vestigial arms, Therizinosaurus, the giant sloth-clawed herbivore, and Dracorex, the dragon-headed juvenile, represent just a small sample of the creative solutions that evolution discovered during this remarkable period. Each one challenges our preconceptions about what dinosaurs could be and do. As you rest in your bed tonight, consider the implications of these discoveries. They remind us that the natural world is far stranger and more wonderful than we typically imagine. The comfortable categories we use to organize our understanding, predator and prey, large and small, familiar and alien, often prove inadequate when confronted with the actual diversity of life that has existed on our planet. These peculiar dinosaurs also demonstrate evolution's remarkable ability to repurpose existing structures for new functions. The same basic theropod body plan that produced fearsome predators like Tyrannosaurus also gave rise to the gentle giant Therizinosaurus and the four-winged glider Microraptor. The same processes that shaped the familiar dinosaurs we discussed earlier also crafted these strange and wonderful creatures, each perfectly adapted to its particular way of life. The size contrasts among these dinosaurs are particularly striking when considered together. Microraptor, at 2 feet long, could have perched comfortably on the head of Therizinosaurus, which at 40 feet in length was 20 times longer than its tiny contemporary. Yet both were successful dinosaurs, each finding its own way to thrive in the complex ecosystems of the Mesozoic era. This diversity of size and form reflects the incredible variety of ecological niches available in dinosaur ecosystems, from tiny arboreal gliders to massive terrestrial browsers, from lightning-fast pursuit predators to elaborately decorated social species. Dinosaurs explored virtually every possible way of making a living that the ancient world could offer. As we prepare to journey even deeper into the realm of dinosaur strangeness, where we'll encounter creatures that pushed the boundaries of adaptation even further, take a moment to appreciate the gentle lesson these peculiar dinosaurs teach us about the nature of success and adaptation. None of them resembles our stereotypical image of what a dinosaur should look like, yet each was perfectly suited to its environment and way of life. Their strangeness is not a failure of design, but a testament to evolution's creativity and flexibility. In the vast laboratory of natural selection, there are countless ways to solve the basic problems of survival and reproduction. What matters is not whether a solution looks familiar or conventional to our human eyes, but whether it works in the specific context where it evolves. Tonight, as you drift towards sleep, carry with you the image of these four remarkable creatures, each a unique experiment in the endless creativity of life. Let their strangeness fill you not with unease, but with wonder at the magnificent diversity of solutions that evolution can discover when given enough time and opportunity. The Microraptor, gliding through ancient forests with its four black wings spread wide. The Carnotaurus, racing across prehistoric plains with its tiny arms tucked against its streamlined body. The massive Therizinosaurus, reaching up into towering trees with its enormous claws to harvest leaves. And the young Dracorex, displaying its crown of spikes in the fading light of a Cretaceous evening. These images remind us that the natural world has always been far more imaginative than any human storyteller could conceive. In your dreams tonight, you might find yourself walking through those ancient landscapes, witnessing these remarkable creatures going about their daily lives in worlds long lost to time. And if you do, remember that you're not just dreaming of alien monsters from a distant past, but of your own extended family. Fellow members of the great community of life on Earth, distant cousins in the vast family tree that connects all living things across the immense span of evolutionary time. The aquatic and aerial oddities. As you settle deeper into the comfort of your bed, feeling the gentle embrace of approaching sleep, our journey through deep time carries us into even stranger territories, to environments where dinosaurs ventured beyond the familiar realm of dry land and discovered entirely new ways of being. Tonight, we'll meet dinosaurs that took to the water like crocodiles, creatures that filled the ancient air with haunting music, and animals that experimented with flight in ways that would make modern engineers marvel. Let us begin with perhaps the most dramatically transformed dinosaur ever discovered, Spinosaurus, a creature so bizarre that it has rewritten our understanding of what these ancient animals could become. Picture a predatory dinosaur 50 feet in length, longer than Tyrannosaurus rex, but built like no other meat-eating dinosaur that ever lived. Spinosaurus possessed a skull that was long and narrow like a crocodile's, filled with conical teeth perfect for catching fish. Its nostrils were positioned high on its head, allowing it to breathe while mostly submerged. Most remarkably of all, its legs were short and paddle-like, and its feet were webbed, clear adaptations for a life spent largely in the water. Rising from Spinosaurus's back was a spectacular sail, formed by extensions of its vertebrae that may have reached 6 feet in height, likely covered in skin and possibly colored in brilliant patterns for display. Imagine this magnificent creature emerging from an ancient river, water streaming from its massive form, looking more like a dragon from mythology than anything we typically associate with dinosaurs. But Spinosaurus wasn't just comfortable in water. It was superbly adapted for aquatic life, with dense bones for buoyancy and a powerful, paddle-like tail for propulsion. This was a dinosaur that had essentially become a giant, semi-aquatic fish eater, filling an ecological niche that no other dinosaur had ever occupied. From the warm rivers of ancient Morocco, let us journey to the coastal plains of North America, where we encounter our next remarkable friend, Parasaurolophus, the musician of the dinosaur world. This duck-billed herbivore possessed one of the most sophisticated communication systems ever discovered in a dinosaur, housed within the elegant curved crest that adorned its skull. The crest of Parasaurolophus wasn't just decorative. It was a complex wind instrument, a living trumpet that could produce deep, resonant tones that carried for miles across the ancient landscape. Inside this hollow crest was a system of tubes and chambers that worked like the pipes of an organ, allowing these dinosaurs to create haunting whale-like calls that hadn't been heard on Earth for 75 million years. Picture herds of these elegant creatures moving across the flowering plains of the late Cretaceous, their distinctive crests creating a living orchestra. As the sun set over ancient landscapes, painted with the colors of early flowers and towering conifers, the air would fill with their deep, melodious calls. Dinosaurs singing to one another across the vast distances of their prehistoric world. From the musical plains of late Cretaceous, North America, our journey takes us to the forests of Jurassic China, where we encounter Yi, whose name simply means strange wing. This small dinosaur, about the size of a pigeon, represents one of evolution's most remarkable experiments in powered flight, using a solution so unique that it was never repeated in the entire history of life on Earth. Yi possessed wings, but not the feathered wings of modern birds, or even the four-feather wings of Microraptor. Instead, this tiny dinosaur had developed wings more like those of a bat, with membranes of skin stretched between elongated fingers. Picture this extraordinary creature clinging to the bark of ancient conifers with its clawed hands, then spreading its membrane wings to glide between the trees. Evolution, experimenting with an entirely different approach to flight that proved the transition from dinosaurs to birds wasn't a simple linear progression. Finally, let us encounter Nigersaurus, a dinosaur so bizarre in its feeding adaptations that it seems almost like a creature from an alien world. This sauropod from Middle Cretaceous Niger possessed a skull unlike any other dinosaur, with a mouth full of more than 500 tiny teeth arranged in parallel rows, creating what scientists describe as a conveyor belt feeding system. The head of Nigersaurus was exceptionally wide and flat, with jaws that extended far beyond the sides of its skull, creating a mouth that looked more like the scoop of a bulldozer. Most remarkably, the skull was tilted downward, meaning that the animal's mouth naturally faced the ground. This wasn't a dinosaur that reached up into trees like other sauropods, but a ground-level vacuum cleaner, perfectly designed to crop low-growing vegetation with unprecedented efficiency. Picture Nigersaurus moving across the landscape like a living lawnmower, its bizarre skull sweeping from side to side just inches above the ground. Those hundreds of tiny teeth slicing through vegetation with mechanical precision. It was evolution's answer to the challenge of harvesting the abundant low-growing plants of its era, a solution so specialized that it seems almost engineered rather than evolved. These four remarkable dinosaurs, Spinosaurus, the aquatic giant, Parasaurolophus the musician, Yi the membrane-winged glider, and Nigersaurus the ground-level harvester, represent some of evolution's most creative experiments in environmental adaptation. Each found success by venturing into ecological niches that seem almost impossible from our modern perspective, reminding us that evolution has no predetermined plan, but instead explores whatever opportunities the environment presents. As you rest in the comfort of your modern bed, these ancient creatures invite us to expand our conception of what life can become. They lived in environments we can barely imagine, solved problems we've never had to face, and found success using strategies that seem almost fantastical. Yet each worked perfectly within its own context for millions of years. Tonight, as you drift towards sleep, let your mind wander through the ancient landscapes where these remarkable creatures lived their lives. Picture the warm rivers where Spinosaurus glided with its great sail catching the light, the musical plains where Parasaurolophus herds filled the air with their resonant calls, the experimental forests where Yi spread its membrane wings, and the abundant grasslands where Nigersaurus worked like a living harvester. In these visions, you're glimpsing the endless creativity of the same life force that flows through every living thing on Earth today, including yourself. You are part of this magnificent story, a conscious moment in evolution's long experiment, with awareness and wonder, perfectly positioned to appreciate the beauty and strangeness of life in all its countless forms. As sleep approaches, carry with you the peaceful knowledge that the natural world has always been far stranger and more wonderful than we can imagine, and that this creativity continues around us every day, still discovering new solutions to the eternal challenges of existence.